Hello, one and all. I'm Andrew,
And I'm Andrew.
artsmith and wordsmith of the Mithral campus, where we make homebrew items, monsters, and more for your D&D 5th edition campaigns. With the 2024 rules on the horizon, we've decided to fill out our roster of the 2014 subclasses. We've already got a number of them under our belt, such as the Oath of Suffering Paladin and the College of Direction Bard, but we're still a few shy of having one subclass for each of the base 12 classes.
So we've been hard at work making new subclasses for the Barbarian, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Ranger, Sorcerer, and Wizard.
Making subclasses has been a lot of fun for us, and it was a challenge to push ourselves more into this space after focusing more on items and monsters for the majority of our homebrew.
And since we're closing out the 2014 classes, we decided it would be fun to take a look at all of our subclasses and give them a ranking. We tried to be as impartial as possible, given that they are our own creations.
Generally, our rankings will reflect both how successfully we think the subclass delivers on the fantasy and flavor one would expect from picking it, as well as how functional it is in regards to the three pillars of play: combat, exploration, and social interaction.
Today we're going to go over our first 6 subclasses, and we'll cover the remaining half next month. If you disagree with any of our rankings, please let us know in the comments down below.
Without further ado, we'll go back to where it all started: the Oath of Suffering Paladin. The Oath of Suffering is taken by those who choose to take on the pain suffered by others as their own. Paladins who take this oath believe there is a finite amount of pain in this world, and by suffering themselves they can reduce the suffering of the innocent. Though their methods may differ, ranging from divine healing to self-flagellation, those who take this oath endeavor to become a martyr for the anguished masses. While some hardships those of the oak seek to soothe are more abstract, there are also those who work to inflict suffering for their own malicious needs. When seeking to prevent pain, a paladin may be inclined to take a more proactive approach, cutting down these craven degenerates before they can cause any harm. Pain itself can be a powerful tool to prevent its own spread.
Nothing gets our creative juices flowing like a good religious cult. The Oath of Suffering is our take on religious indoctrination that can form around dark and twisted beliefs. An order that preaches receiving and delivering pain and suffering as a means to show devotion to the Bloody Mother.
First, you get your paladin spells. The list is a mixture of healing, damage, and debuff spells that can help you mitigate pain in your ally's place.
At 3rd level, you gain 2 Channel Divinity options: Mitigate Agony and Shared Suffering. Mitigate Agony allows you to bond yourself with a creature for 1 minute. In that minute, once per round, you can reduce an instance of damage taken by the bonded creature by half, taking an equal amount of necrotic damage yourself. This feature ends if you drop to 0 hit points or if you bond to another creature.
With Shared Suffering, you can use your reaction when a creature within 30 feet of you deals damage to you. The attacker must make a Wisdom saving throw or take an equal amount of damage as you, or half as much on the successful save.
So I think the Channel Divinities are really good at selling what this subclass is all about. It's all about reducing damage that your allies take, while also inflicting increased amounts of damage to your enemies.
Yeah, it's preventing damage to your allies and punishing enemies for dealing the damage in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's the Suffering is really good at winning a war of attrition.
Yeah,
It's like you can throw stuff at it or your allies, but in the end, they're just going to take more punishment in return.
Yeah, we really wanted to design a tank subclass for the Paladin and a proper sort of way of preventing damage.
Yeah, and one important thing to note is that Mitigate Agony actually doesn't use your reaction. It's a once per round ability, but since it doesn't use your reaction, you can help keep your allies alive and still feel like a proactive presence on the battlefield. Keeping it for like opportunity attacks or if you have other spells at the ready.
Yep. You get to use Sentinel. At 7th level, you gain the Divine Scourge feature. When you use your Divine Smite, you can expend a number of hit dice up to your proficiency modifier in place of a spell slot. If you do, your Smite deals necrotic damage instead of radiant, and you take half the amount of the necrotic damage dealt as payment. And you no longer deal additional damage to fiends and undead creatures as the nature of your Smite has changed.
So this ability allows you to circumvent the low number of spell slots paladins have, since they're half casters. It's kind of got a heavy cost because you're giving up future healing, and hit dice are in and of itself a pretty valuable resource. So you're giving up longevity while also taking damage yourself for hopefully the sake of taking your opponent down even faster.
Yeah, it's definitely a sort of burning the candle at both ends for sure, but yeah, it gives you a little extra option in case you run out of spell slots.
Yeah, it could either be just the battle's gone long enough that you're out of spells, so it's kind of like a desperation tactic, or you even just I don't know, you're fighting something that doesn't care about radiant damage,
Yep.
so you can switch it up on the fly. I think either way, it's another very flavorful feature.
Yeah.
It shows that the Paladin is willing to take on more pain themselves to defeat their enemies.
Yeah.
Like, literally bleeding for the cause.
It's kind of a paladin version of the homebrew people often do, of like exhausting spellcasters in order to get an extra spell slot. But in this case, it is your divine smite that you are putting your life force into.
Yeah, I think it's also
Going
fun.
beyond your limits.
It's good because I think it creates an interesting push and pull you have to do.
Yeah.
Of if you're on a kind of like a longer adventure, or you know that the BBG is a little ways away, do you really want to bother expending hit dice right now?
Right.
And like suffer maybe in your short rest? Or do you want to try and save them all up for the future? And burn through maybe your regular divine smites for the time being?
Yes.
At 15th level, you become a master of pain. Both of your channel divinities become more powerful. You can now bond to 2 different creatures with mitigate agony, and you can now choose to take on all of the damage instead of just half, meaning your ally will take 0 damage instead.
This does mean that you take on the full brunt of the damage, however.
And Shared Suffering's power is doubled, meaning that you'll deal twice as much damage as you take back to the attacker, or the same amount if they succeed on their save. So these are just strict upgrades to the channels.
Yes.
You get more flexibility with mitigate agony, and Shared Suffering just punches way harder now.
Yeah, and the ability to just fully say, no, you don't take that damage, I take all of it, is huge tanking potential for, say, if your wizard gets a bad dexterity save and is taking a big old dragon breath to the face.
Yeah, and it's like, since you're the paladin, you're supposed to be tanking for your enemies. We kind of wanted something where you really did feel like a true tank.
Yeah.
Not just taking on aggro from the enemies, but actually being able to reduce the amount of damage that your allies are taking on the rest of the battlefield.
Yeah.
I think felt very important to us. And Shared Suffering just becomes disgusting.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, honestly, if you take a crit, you kind of don't care. Because like, oh no, you double the damage dice against me, but I quadruple the damage dice going back to you.
Yeah. As long as you have your channel divinities up, you'll be fine.
Hit points are a resource.
Finally, at 20th level, you become an avatar of terrible pain, the Exalted Martyr. You exude a 30-foot radius aura of pain for 1 hour. For the duration, at the start of each of your turns, you gain 1d10 temporary hit points for each hostile creature in the area. If a creature in the aura deals damage to a creature other than yourself, you gain advantage on melee weapon attacks you make against them until the end of your next turn. And finally, you can choose to nullify any resistance and reduce immunities to resistances for each creature of your choice within the aura.
Yeah, so it's overkill.
Yeah.
But it's a capstone. It's a paladin capstone, so you can go a little overboard.
Yeah, paladin capstones are all busted because you get them at 20th level.
Yeah, and I don't know, erasing immunities and resistances is really strong, but it just felt really fitting. You're the pain dealer. And your whole deal is just, you want to take less pain? That's not allowed while I'm around.
No, yeah.
Yeah. I think we had a lot of other options, I remember. We were kind of going through different possibilities, and we weren't sure if we wanted to make it like a full transformation at one point. But I feel like these abilities really cut to the core of what the subclass is about.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it being just kind of less of a transformation, more of just a literal aura of malice, of menace, of pain, and just multiplying all of the pain around you felt like the most appropriate way to make the capstone for this.
And I feel like it all works together. You become tankier for being in the middle of all these enemies. If your allies take damage, you can reduce that with the temporary hit points that you're getting. And you are now killing your enemies faster.
Yes.
It's just everything is amplified that you are already doing with this subclass.
And you get advantage on them attacking your allies, so you're just going to be absolutely destroying everything that messes with your party.
Yeah.
Only I get to cause pain.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the motto for the Exalted Martyr.
So, I think with all that it can do, I think the main weakness of the subclass, more than anything, is definitely how it's like you described it as a candle burning at both ends earlier.
Yes.
I think that's an accurate assessment.
Yep.
It's really strong, but again, you're bleeding hit dice, you're taking damage in place of your allies, which is good, but that's more damage you're taking, and you're reducing your own healing. You might not be able to like weather a storm, depending how long combat goes.
It's true, yeah. The longer the combat goes on for, the worse off you're going to be, especially if you're putting in all of your divine scourges.
Yeah, I know we described it earlier.
Taking people's damage for them. Yeah, it's gonna add up real quick.
Yeah, I know. I think at early levels it helps you win wars of attrition.
Yes.
Later levels is where it gets hard. Like you can take on a dragon, like a fire blast from a dragon just fine.
Mhm.
But do you want to take twice as much damage on behalf of a party member? No matter what level you are, that's just a lot of damage to try and survive.
It's true.
So I think, given that it's exceptionally powerful, but it is probably not really good for. I think kind of based on the kind of campaign your DM likes to run. If they're very generous with short or long rests, and they usually don't have that many encounters thrown at you a day, there's no real issue.
Yeah, it's gonna be very potent.
But if you're on a long grind or you're trying to fight through like a whole castle and there's not a lot of time for recovering your resources, you're just like a vanilla paladin by the time you get to the end.
It's true. And this one, thinking of the Pillars of Play, this is combat.
It's true.
It is full combat all the way through.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything in the other two categories at all.
No, exploration, it's not really going to be doing any of that.
No.
Not really something that a paladin really deals with very much, but that is one of the pillars. For social, you could argue kind of in the abstract, you can do some messed up stuff with this.
It's true, yeah. Depending on the situation, it could also be a detriment.
Yes.
This is up to whatever character you want to play. If you want to play the person who's like, I like pain, it's like, sure, that's fine. But
it's an uncomfortable person to be around.
Yeah, you don't bring them to your negotiations. So
Yeah.
it's an argument that they're not even good to have with you in certain scenarios.
Yeah, unless a very specific way of convincing people
Yeah,
would be good at.
But outside of that,
intimidation, you'd be fine. Otherwise, it might be a little awkward.
Yeah. So I think given all that, my estimation is probably like an A.
Yes, it's very good at what it does, and what it does is not very nice.
Yeah, what it does is quite limited, but it's real. It's one of those I just do one thing really well subclasses.
Yes, this thing hurts people, and stops people from being hurt.
It does.
It's combat.
Yeah, it's only combat oriented, and I think outside of that, having a lot of restrictions. Like paladins already have lots of things that they need to deal with. This doesn't really give you new resources other than Divine Scourge, but again, that eats into your health.
It's true,
which you're trying to use for the rest of your channel divinities as well.
Yeah, I think in any other case, omitting 2 of the pillars, I would think would be enough to be like, it's B tier kind of. But it's so good at the combat.
Yeah, I think I think when we did try to run
back.
it, I was like,
yeah,
okay, you can really feel its power. I think there is an argument that it could be in B tier because it's like I said, it's a little reliant on how your DM runs games.
It's
in a certain campaign, you might feel like you're not having as much impact the longer the adventure goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally put in A tier.
Yeah, I agree.
A tier for the Oath of Suffering.
Yep.
I think it's a good spot for it.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Bard with College of Direction.
Upon the battlefield, there is sweet music to be found. While many of the bardic persuasions subtly influence the flow of battle, the presence of a bard from the College of Direction is impossible to ignore. Through a myriad of curious tactics and stratagems, these bards deftly tip any fight in their favor by conducting their allies like an orchestra of death. Through the music and methods, they lead the battlefield until a veritable symphony is at their command.
Bards of the College of Direction are not content to sit on the sidelines of battle. They command and direct the flow of combat to their whims with their magical abilities.
We wanted to make a bard that felt much more directly active in combat, using their bardic inspiration to actually control what is happening around them.
At 3rd level, you gain the Flawless Technique, where you learn a number of cues which consume your bardic inspiration. The target of one of your cues must be within 60 feet of you and must be able to see you. This feature functions similarly to the Battlemaster maneuvers, allowing you to customize your bard as you wish. Based on which cues you choose to learn, you may become more reactive to the battle, or you may choose to employ your bonus actions in specific ways.
Yeah, so we like this direction of design for the college, because the Battlemaster is already a really solid subclass for the fighter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a good starting point to design this bard. It's one that you can kind of find your own identity. Again, like there's some There's a lot of them that are just straight up reactions that can help save your allies, or you can have them, like the Battle Master has one maneuver that allows him to, is the Commanding Strike.
Yes.
You essentially have a really similar one in this where you can just direct your allies to attack outside of their turn.
Yes. And we also have one to reposition your allies. It really is just like the tactical bard. And I'm always a fan of sort of being able to build your own subclass in a way.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we kept in mind to distinguish it from the Battle Master was the Battle Master ones are, for the most part, all about like attacking.
Yes.
There's like bait and switch, which help your ally, yes, but for the most part, they're all about striking someone and hitting them with some kind of debuff or increasing your damage output. But yeah, like with Segue, you can have an ally reposition themselves.
Yep.
And that doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. So if your rogue or ranger is in danger, you can just tell them to run away and they're set up for their next turn. Or with rest, you can use a bonus action and you give them temporary hit points, like keep someone alive if you really need them to. They have a really important role that they're about to fulfill. I think it was also really fun coming up with the names for them themselves, just looking at musical terms and trying to make them fit somehow, being like, oh, what does trill mean? Yeah. How does that translate? Solo, what would that mean? It's like, oh, solo, that's the one that they get to make an attack. Like, of course they do. Yep. And then adding your bardic die, like your command makes them perform at a higher level, which is very bard.
Yeah. Making the names was definitely one of my favorite parts of this.
Yeah, it was a good one. Additionally, at 3rd level, you get the Conductive Influence feature. When you use the help action to aid another creature with a performance or deception check, you can add your charisma bonus to the creature's roll. So, it's just a good bonus to have. It's your telling, like, no, trust me. What they're saying and what they're doing is really worth listening to.
Yeah, your help is a little bit better than others.
Yeah.
And again, you know what you're doing.
And you're a conductor.
Yeah.
And like, what are you doing? You're lying wrong. This is how you lie. There's a real reason for the so it's not like the help action is obviously already very good. And I really like when players get creative with I'm going to back up their lie or I'm going to back up their performance, but you just get a little extra sauce.
Yes.
It's not just advantage. Now your charisma bonus also gets stacked on top of that. You're a bard, you're probably going to have at least +3 or 4 even at early levels. And that's a huge difference on whether or not they'll make it or break it.
I like this one because it kind of shows like you could flavor this like we intended with the sort of conductor aspect, but this also kind of leans into direction of any kind. Like you could be a film director telling your actor feats party member how they should be acting out their part.
It is true, yeah.
Really leaning into the direction aspect. It's nice. At 6th level, you gain the Ensemble feature. As long as you're not surprised or incapacitated, you can spend a use of your Bardic Inspiration and roll it to add the number to the initiative of your allies.
Yeah, just lets you get your team up and running an initiative.
Yep.
It's, again, more of the conducting. They follow your lead in battle. It's like you tell them everyone up and at them.
Yep.
And, I don't know, maybe you spend 1 Bardic die and everyone gets to jump really high in the initiative. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. That is massive. And the fantasy of raising your hands like a conductor and having everybody start on your commands.
Up and at them. It is good.
It's a lot of fun. This is probably one of the more potent of the abilities.
It definitely is. But it's a very resource-heavy subclass.
It's true.
Already. So, again, like even at a certain point, you'll hit 5 Bardic die.
Sure.
For the most part, you're going to have 3 to 4, give or take at early levels. It's like you consume one of them, even before the battle starts, let alone like giving them out as part of your class. You're trying to use your Qs, theoretically.
Yes.
And that's a valuable resource now you've given away.
Yeah. And it is definitely harder to justify using this when you don't get your Bardic Inspiration back on a short rest.
Yes.
It's even more taxing on your resources early on. And then later, this is something that you can just throw into every combat.
Later it's whatever, but yeah. This is also definitely a really good incentive for you to take the alert feat.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, I have to not be surprised. I will just never be surprised. And now all your allies get to move with you. Even if they themselves are surprised, you can still bump them up.
Yep, true. And new surprised, that's
true.
That is much better. Yeah.
Yeah. At 14th level, you become a Maestro. Whenever you use a Q as part of your Flawless Technique feature, the targeted creature also gains a free Bardic Inspiration die.
Yeah, so there's no downside to using a Q anymore.
Yeah, it's just extra sauce. You use your subclass features, and now they have a free, quote, free Bardic Inspiration die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think the subclass overall has a really clear direction.
Yeah, it's elegant in its design, because we didn't want to overwhelm people after the Qs. There's a lot of choice there, a lot of reading. The later ones are very straightforward, but also very potent and very flavorful still.
Yeah, it was just more of the same. Like, you could still use a Bardic Inspiration die different ways. You could still just give it to someone straight up so they can have it loaded before they go into battle.
Yeah.
But it felt like what this subclass was lacking towards the end was additional uses for its limited resources.
Yes.
It's kind of similar to Suffering in a way.
Yeah.
Where we made something that's very resource hungry. So instead of just going, oh, you gain more Bardic Inspiration die for free, I thought it was more interesting to go, the Barbarian, I made them do this attack, and now they have a free die they can use on their next attack on their upcoming turn.
Yeah.
So it's just even more of the idea of after getting your direction, for a brief moment, they're performing at peak efficiency.
Yep. They are inspired simply by you directing them.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, all bards do this to a certain degree just by design.
Yep.
But I think the ability to kind of push and pull creatures in the middle of combat and like have a much more like direct and tangible effect on the battlefield, I think is going to be fun for a lot of people.
Yes. But this one, when it comes to the pillars, it is combat focused in a lot of the abilities, but we do have a little bit of more out of combat scenarios with conductive influence helping out with charisma checks.
Yeah, I think, and bards just by design obviously are already very good in social scenarios.
It's true.
And I think
The
most
base
of the time
class
a
is
performance or a deception check is usually pretty useful.
Yep.
It's not super limited whenever you're like out and about in the city or interacting with new people.
Yeah.
Even though it's flavor wise supposed to be like we're all about combat, like you said, it dips its toe into the other areas a little as well.
Yeah.
And the bardic inspiration that the creature gets, like, is obviously they don't have to use it immediately. They just have the bardic die and it's just lasts as long as a bardic die normally would. So theoretically, if they didn't use it, they could hold on to it until the next moment that is necessary.
It's true. Yeah.
The one, I would say the biggest weakness of this is what you already touched on. The early resource management.
Yes.
When you don't get your bardic inspiration back on short rests, you're just chewing through them.
Yeah. Everything uses your bardic inspiration.
Yeah. And I remember playing bards sub 5th level, and it feels so hard to try and manage the very few things. Like, this is what your class does.
Yes.
And you'll just eat right through it early on. And this subclass is making you do that even more. So I could see there being a little bit of like growing pains early on.
Yeah, early levels might be a little rough. But yeah, once you start getting things back on a short rest, it gets kind of nuts.
Yeah,
honestly.
It's a lot better. And yeah, so I think if you play your cards right and you like playing, you're a very strategic and tactical like player.
Yeah.
I think this is really nice. I know like you like playing support classes and lots of like games and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think this would be really good for you.
Yeah.
Because you don't care necessarily about being like, I need to deal the biggest amount of damage to the dragon. You're like, I got the barbarian there.
Yes.
I got the fighter in position. I brought the wizard back.
Have fun taking credit for every accomplishment your party does.
That's all me. That's me.
It was all thanks to me.
He's a CEO subclass.
Yeah, don't give this to a toxic player.
Oh no. I think that is actually genuinely something we tried to avoid early on, where we were talking about this early, and I remember we hit a point of like, well, do they have to follow your order? Like, what if you make them do? It's like, I don't think any of these are detrimental. Even like Segue, the ally can choose to move. It can move. It doesn't have to. It's not like you tell them go there and you mind control them over.
You're not charming anyone.
Yeah, I remember that was something we touched on. Like, we need to be careful with the cues to make sure none of them are something they may not want.
Sure.
Which, like, if a player does that, don't play with them.
Just
full stop. But it was still good to have the like stopgaps. Just be like, that's not possible. You can't really do that to them.
Yeah.
It's like, who's gonna be unhappy that you gave them temporary hit points? Who's going to be unhappy that you reduce the amount of damage they took? It's like, these are all things, they theoretically should all be net positives.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think given that, I think the resource management might knock this down a good amount.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I'm torn between like high B and low A.
Yeah, it's like a B plus, I think.
I think it is very good at what it does, kind of similar to the Paladin,
Yeah.
but not. And by design, not as impactful. It's not a damaging subclass.
No.
But the fact that you can, I think if you build it a certain way, like again, you take the alert feat, your team's always going to be like really high in initiative.
Mhm.
But we're not taking into factor like, oh well, if you build this way, it's really good, of course.
Sure.
And there is a degree of variability with the subclass because you can take a lot of reactions. You can take a nice spread of them, so you can do lots of things in combat.
Yeah, you can actually sort of increase the amount of your turn you can use as a bard.
Yeah.
But you know, you can usually save your reaction for like a counter spell or something like that. Depends. But
Yeah.
you'll have something for every situation.
I don't know. Maybe it is an A.
I could give it an A. I think it's the early game. It might feel more like a B, but I think later it might hit A.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe the resource management alone makes it drops it down.
Yeah.
Because most bards will be giving out bard inspiration to like really important people, and you can kind of select when things happen.
Yes.
And you're kind of still in control of who gets things, but depending on how you build, you may have to spend a bardic inspiration to save someone.
Yeah.
And you might not necessarily want to do that when you're trying to save your inspiration to give to your fighter to be able to land a really important hit, or give to someone else so they can make a saving throw that's really important.
Yeah.
Even with getting back on short rest, like if you say you use one, you give away a bardic die as an you use a die for initiative.
Right.
You gave one away as a bonus action. You use a Q that's an action, and you use one as a reaction. If you build that way, your subclass is performing at peak efficiency. That's 4 bardic dice. Even at max charisma, that's cool. You have 1 left.
Yeah, that's fair.
And obviously at 14th level, you're like, cool, but there's more bardic. Everyone's getting bardic dice, so
yes.
It doesn't matter. But that's so high level.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as much of a factor.
Yeah, I think just for resource management purposes, it will probably be a B.
Yeah, because the difference with the Battle Master is it doesn't eat from any resource that it already has. It doesn't consume the second winds or the action surges.
Yeah.
It's additive. This is eating from the same pool that your subclass relies on.
It's true. Yeah.
So I'd say B.
I'd say B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A comfy B.
Comfortable B. Yeah. B plus.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the Fable Warlock.
There's nothing more powerful than a story. Stories can inspire greatness, frighten warriors into an action, and even cause unmatched destruction. They are passed down, evolve over time, growing stronger and stronger as they spread. Stories are alive. Some more than others. Sometimes a story becomes so powerful that it breaches the veil between fact and fiction. Manifesting in our own world, they become local legends, growing in power as their stories are spread. You have pledged yourself to such an entity, whether through a chance meeting in the dreamscape or by tapping into the tale's inherent power, allowing it to creep into reality. We love the grim fairy tales, don't we?
Yeah, I remember you had this in mind for a while, and we found a place for it when we made the fairy tale item set from last March.
Yes. And
Good.
I kind of went rogue a little bit on this one, I will admit. But let's get into that. So at first level, you'll gain your expanded spell list. It has lots of fairy tale inspired spells like Sleep, Tiny Servant, Polymorph. Additionally, at first level, you choose your patron from a few options: the Beast, the Spirit, and the Other, each representing a type of fairy tale creature or monster likely to appear in old tales. When you choose your patron's form, you can use a bonus action to call it from fiction to reality, becoming a sort of familiar at your command. Also at first level, you gain the Cryptic Form feature, which grants you a number of story points equal to your proficiency bonus, which double in count at 10th level. You can use these story points to modify your patron's abilities and appearance. So you came up with the flavor for this subclass. Yes.
It was pretty interesting, thinking of how a patron is not set in stone, but like a story in a fairy tale that evolves and grows over time, and you can modify it based on how you, quote, tell the story.
Yes, exactly. It's I wanted it to be kind of mutable in the way that a story can change over time, and that is sort of reflected in both the how you can build it and also the progression of the subclass in general, where the more established your story becomes, the more powerful your patron gets. It becomes more than just a story and becomes this actual living thing.
Yeah. I think even just the basis you said is really good. The beast, the spirit, or the other. Those are kind of classics. And it gives you a lot of direction based on how you like to play. It like embodies a kind of different play style and the different abilities depending on what kind of warlock you like to be. It's already a very malleable class, and this just adds to it.
Yes, almost to its own detriment. I think I gave it a few too many options here. This is a hard first level for a player to do.
Yeah, this would not be something you throw at a new player for sure.
No.
Yeah.
I think
it's overwhelming.
It's
already from literally first level.
Because
let alone now you have to choose your Eldritch invocations. You gotta choose Pack Chain or the Blade. It's like so many
Eldritch invocations.
things.
You at least have to wait until the third level.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of customization here, and there may be too many. But it did absolutely establish what this subclass was about, which is building a story to then use as your patron.
Yeah. At 6th level, you gain the Shared Story feature, which allows you to expend the use of your Archetype feature or a Warlock spell slot to gain a number of temporary hit points equal to twice your Warlock level, and you receive traits that are granted by the Cryptic Form feature.
These temporary hit points and the chosen traits remain for 1 minute or 10 minutes once you reach 10th level. Additionally, you can use your patron's senses when it's summoned and can cast Warlock spells through it.
Yeah, it's just another way to draw on your patron's power.
Yep.
And now you sort of come alive.
Yes, you take on some aspects of the story. You embody this weird cryptid that you have sort of designed or helped design.
Yeah, you are the big bad wolf.
Yep.
I think it's kind of similar to the familiar spell. I think that's cool. It makes it so the familiar or the Fable isn't limited and relegated to just combat scenarios.
Yes, and it's not limited to being sort of like a familiar class as well.
Yeah, it lets you spy on people. It lets you just send it away if you want to cast spells remotely. Those are already pretty useful features of the familiar spell, but then it being tied to something you can summon with more hit points and more like combat capabilities is pretty useful.
Yep.
Just good.
Honestly, if I were to rewrite this, I would essentially say that it is replicating the effects of the Find Familiar spell and counts as a familiar for you, which would then allow you to use Pact of the Chain features on it.
Oh, that's true. That's cool.
Yeah,
it's even more malleable. Yeah, it kind of like works within itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you build for Pact of the Chain, you will be able to use your features for this. Although then it would probably imply, hey, use Pact of the Chain on this.
It's true. There is one build.
I mean, like, if it's going to have a familiar, you might as well get the familiar stuff out of it.
Sure, true.
I will say, once again, this is another feature that has multiple features in it. It's not a choice anymore, but it is like, I want this to do everything I want it to do.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue as we go down the list. I like options, maybe too much. At 10th level, you gain access to the Collective Unconscious. You learn the Dream spell, which counts as a Warlock spell for you, but doesn't count against spells you know, and once per long rest, you can cast it without expending a spell slot. You can force the target to roll on the long-term Madness table by inflicting them with terrifying visions of your patron, and you can choose additional creature to be a messenger as part of the spell. And you can end the spell early in order to teleport to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the dreaming creature.
It's all cool ways to give the dream spell a little extra something.
Yeah, I just love the idea of sending a vision of your patron into people's dreams just to spread the story even further.
Yeah.
It's like not even your dreams are safe from this thing. Even if you're off Twitter and
you're off Twitter,
you're out of the
psychic damage will chase you. No one's truly offline.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Honestly, the more I look at it's really cool, and I'm like stuff like, oh, you see visions of a patron, or you can appear next to someone because that is very fairy tale coded. Like,
Yeah,
I come to you in a
terrifying.
dream. The more I look at them, the more I'm like, this is so strong.
Yes.
Like, the long-term madness table already is like, hey, the king's just gonna go like, the sleep spell's already so powerful.
It's true.
Like, there's I've told you about it, this Reddit post where people are like, you get enough people and you could just kill anyone in the world by constantly hitting them with a dream spell, so they never regain get the benefits of a long rest.
Yeah.
So like, dreams are already good. Now you can make them crazy from afar. You just destabilize a kingdom, or even appearing next to them in the dream.
Yeah.
Like, or like, once you're sleeping, you're just like, okay, cool, stab him. King's dead. Leave. Like, there's so much application for this.
Yeah. I think if I were to do this again, it would just be maybe the final one. I really like the idea of teleporting Solo to the Dreamer.
Maybe
But-
the short term. It could be the short term Manus table for the first,
Yeah,
if anything. The
Well,
additional-
short term is like a matter of rounds.
That's
The
true.
long term is at least like a
Uh,
couple days.
Yeah, their life is affected.
Yeah.
But I think that's
But
too
then
powerful
too
for
powerful for
a spell. You technically don't even need to see the creature, yada yada. The last one is cool. It probably needs something like, and they wake with it. It's
That's
the
true.
fact that you can end, like, if you end the dream spell, they don't wake, I think.
No.
So it's just like, cool. It's a free teleport across the world.
Yes.
Even like, not even thinking about it aggressively, like, oh, you appear next to me, stab them. You could just go, hey, I went on a huge journey, and like, can you fall asleep at this time, and I'll just teleport back home.
Right. You just message your friend across.
It's just abusable in that way as well.
It is that it's only you. You
Sure,
can't double
sure.
up on bringing someone else in and also teleporting them.
Yeah.
So it is. You need to do this on something that you can accomplish on your own.
Yeah. It's tough. And some of
Yeah.
it is the way the dream spell works, but
Yes.
some of it is also how this works.
Yes.
And I think it's a little too powerful for 10th level.
I think so. Once again, too many options, and the
Yeah.
options are very strong.
At 14th level, your connection with your patron grows even more powerful. Now, instead of simply summoning your archetype, you can become your archetype. And when you do so, you are treated similarly to a druid under the effects of the Wild Shape feature. You gain a number of benefits, including temporary hit points equal to twice your warlock level, as well as the ability to have the archetype grow one side's category larger. You also retain all other abilities, such as being able to speak and cast spells, as well as any special senses you normally have. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Look, I like my options.
Yes, you do.
This is every option I could possibly fit into this subclass.
This is not even touching the extra, like, Eldritch Invocations you came up with.
I did.
We haven't even,
yeah.
like, got into those, because this would just be even more
Yeah, these
on
are
top
just
of it all.
kind of gravy on top of any.
they're good.
Any warlock. But yeah, I think in trying to make this work for any sort of fantasy of having this sort of like fact to fiction association with your patron, I think I put every option in there, and that is to its detriment. I think this needs to be pared down a little bit. The weird thing about it is that it is incredibly strong. Like,
Yes.
when it comes to just like gameplay perspective, this has to be an S tier just because of
Sure.
You have options for everything.
Yeah,
And
like
you
an
can build it.
ideal world, if everything's
Yeah.
going well, S tier probably, yeah.
But the design of it
yeah.
is so convoluted
Yeah.
that it's not.
Yeah, I think the play experience is affected by it.
Yes.
Even people who are familiar with Warlocks and have played D&D a good amount
Yeah.
are just looking, like, at least for Battle Masters, you're just like, take 3, then take another 2,
Yeah.
then take another 2. And this is, you just get all of these and then choose them as you go,
Yeah.
on top of, again, invocations, on top of whatever pact you've chosen, on
Yep.
top of your spells. It's just another thing you have to keep in mind.
Yes. I think that there is a way to design this with a good amount of options.
Yeah.
It just needs to be pared down.
Yeah, and like you said, it's got things that you could do. It has applications outside of like just combat.
It's true.
But that is because you're like, I gave it everything. Like, our other can teleport people with you. I'm like, yes, that's useful outside of combat. Absolutely. It's just another thing you have to keep track of.
Yep.
Yeah, if we were ever to redesign this, you could go kind of the direction a wizard does with familiars or summoned creatures that scale according with your level.
Yes.
To be like
modular stat. A single modular stat block.
Yeah, the wolf gains temporary hit points equal to twice your warlock level. Now it gains tankier as you do. It gets a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus, yada yada. Not, and you can give it longer limbs, and you can give it a thunder wave spell, and you can give it like da da da. It's too many.
Yeah. I do like the idea of being like it might be more of a thing where there are the choices for the features of it, and instead of having the 3 specific archetypes, the archetype is its own very sort of vague stat block that you apply them on, like the features onto, to make something that is more of a beast, make something that is more of an other.
Might run into a similar problem with that design. I think it's, again, just the issue of wanting it to do everything.
Yes.
And to its detriment, like you said.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably really good, especially even in a long-term campaign.
Yeah.
I think
you can build this to be absolutely, like, awful to fight against.
I think, like, I don't feel... Like you said, it's maybe an S tier. Like, even Collective of Conscience alone, I'd be like, that's broken.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah, it's an S tier because it's broken, but...
And that's not good.
That's not good.
Given that, I wouldn't want to give it anything, like, above a B.
No, I honestly, going into this, I was thinking of it more as a C. And I'm
just in terms of, like, this isn't the kind of design sense we should...
Yes.
Emulate again.
Yes.
Like, this is not how a subclass should be built, probably.
Yeah. Power level S.
Power level S. Yeah.
Design C.
Which is interesting because we're taking into factor something that outside of like how does it play?
Yeah.
But I would say if a subclass is too hard to understand, that does affect play.
Yeah. 100%.
That is a factor. Like maybe you choose the unideal thing, or someone cracks the code. They're like, well, clearly the best things to choose are always the flying and the resistance to non-silver weapons. Blah blah blah. It's like those are just the best ones. Like cool, now you cracked it, and that's the best one. Yeah, I would agree that maybe it's a C.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
It is.
I think we can take another crack at it sometime. Maybe if we ever want to update it for 2024.
100%.
That might be a good way to go.
Yes. Up next, we have the Cheapshot Rogue.
Many rogues rely on their wits and nimble fingers to get themselves through life, but every now and then, there's no better tool for the job than a nice hard fist. In the back alley rings where rules are non-existent, the Cheapshot reigns supreme through a masterful combination of skillful strikes and dirty tricks alike. Seeing no value in formality and fair play when lives are on the line, they employ all manner of ruthless and questionable tactics in pursuit of victory. Their underhanded moves may earn them some disdainful looks, but these rogues understand one simple thing. Those who laugh last, laugh best. Yeah, as an evil little guy. Little sucker punch you for no reason.
Yeah, this guy is the dirty fighter.
Yeah. I've always wanted like just a more punching subclasses, honestly.
Of course.
That obviously that are not for the monk.
At 3rd level, you gain the Roughhouse feature, which provides you a number of new benefits to your unarmed strikes. You can now choose to use Dexterity in place of Strength for your unarmed attacks, which now use a D4 in place of normal damage. This dice increases in size with levels, similar to the monk.
You can also choose to make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, if you've made one as an action as well. And finally, you can use your sneak attack feature with your unarmed strikes. So, yeah, it's very fun.
Oh yeah.
Subclass just based around punching, but not like the monk where you're like Ip Man doing lots of flurry of punches. This is just one knockout punch per person, ideally.
Yeah, this guy is going straight for like the temple or the gut. Just going for one big hit.
Yeah.
That sneak attack.
So yeah, rather than a flurry of attacks and punches, it's keeping true to the rogue flavor, having you deliver one punch to your opponents, and it gets amplified by the other feature you get at 3rd level, Sucker Punch. I mean, it's the Assassin Rogue feature where you gain advantage on unarmed strikes against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat, and any hit you score with an unarmed strike against a creature that's surprised is an automatic crit. So, cheap shot.
Yep.
Guys just having a pleasant conversation, you clock him in the head, he goes down, No one even knows what happened.
Yep. As long as the other person is not ready for a fight, you are winning that fight.
Yeah. It really drives home, I think, what the subclass is about. Just one punch before necessarily the battle's even started.
Yeah.
You get one in before things kick off. And I think with the ability to add your sneak attack die to your unarmed strikes is obviously, that's like the linchpin of the subclass.
Yeah.
If that wasn't the case, like this wouldn't exist. But with them scaling over time and being able to increase the amount of damage you do with singular strikes, I think the fantasy is really fun. At least I really like the fantasy of just like, look over there, you hit him in the head, you deal 10d6 bludgeoning damage and they go down. It's like, why?
There's also like fun with how you decide to build a character around this, because it could be somebody who just like throws sand in somebody's face and then hits them in the gut, but it could also be like this very refined sort of gentleman who is just having a conversation with you, and then when your guard is down, just socks you in the face.
I think one thing I would change if I remade this is the ability to make a unarmed strike as a bonus action. I should have gone with the wording, if you miss with a unarmed strike, you make as an action.
Okay.
Because for a rogue, it's just extra gravy. Just being like, oh, I mean, that's kind of how you would use it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using a dagger, that's just how they work now.
It's true. It might not be an issue only because I think the ideal way to play this subclass, like most rogues, you don't want to be in close quarters for too long. You run in, you punch someone, you get them with your action, and then you bonus action disengage or you run.
Yeah.
So you're not in close quarters for too long. So you could argue there's like a decision to be made, like, hey, you hit him once, do you want to hit him again and just deal extra damage? Or if you miss or even if you miss your first one, now the ability to do your follow up with your bonus action, you could argue it's just interesting gameplay decision making.
Sure.
Depending on what the situation is. But it does borderline guarantee a hit on your turn.
Yes.
Like, more likely than not, you're gonna at least hit them with one of your 2 attacks.
Yeah.
Unless you're fighting someone really strong.
At 9th level, you gain the Counterpunch feature. When a creature within 5 feet of you misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to make an unarmed strike against them. On a hit, they have to make a Constitution saving throw, and on a failure, the target is stunned until the end of your next turn.
It's a good reaction if you're fighting close quarters, if for whatever reason you weren't able to get out of dodge, or if someone chases you down.
Mm-hmm. It's a reactionary summoning strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if your AC is high enough, you could remain in close quarters and just treat it as a reliable source of damage.
Yeah.
And being able to stun gives you a little bit of utility with your allies. It's not just, I hit someone and run. You can give them advantage now.
It's true. Or you can just activate your own sneak attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At 13th level, you gain the Dirty Boxing feature. You now have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that are frightened, grappled, or incapacitated. It still confuses me to this day that a lot of these don't have advantage tied to them.
Yeah.
But now you do. I don't know, the flavor I had was very much like your ally has them in a headlock.
Yes.
And then you just start running up, giving them punches to the liver. It's like, this isn't fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you are taking advantage of an unfair situation for your opponent. For sure.
Yeah, same with frightened, and like incapacitated usually almost always goes with something that's already giving you advantage, like paralysis or unconsciousness. So it's a little hat on hat, but I figured it was still, there are some things where you just might be incapacitated for X reason.
Yeah, there are some things that give you just incapacitated.
Yeah, so it's just like someone's scared of you for whatever reason, or scared for anything, or they're grappled. They all felt like situations that someone who plays dirty would be able to exploit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're scared. It's a perfect time to hit them in the face.
Yeah, I love the idea of an ally scaring a creature just so that you get your sneak attack on them. That's actually really fun.
The flavor, again, of the way you should play this is probably run in, like hit and run. You punch him, you run away.
Yeah.
So the funniest visual is your ally has a guy in like a headlock. You run up, punch them, disengage, and run away. You're like, yeah, take that. And then you escape 30 feet. Like, well, that was rude.
Absolutely.
You're like the
disrespectful.
Yeah, you're like the deadliest like coward of all time.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's fun. It's just, again, it's like, I don't get why you don't have advantage on some of these conditions already. But yeah, Cheapshot, just go in, start dunking on people. You're literally kicking them while they're down.
Yeah.
It's good.
For sure. Finally, at 17th level, you gain the Knockout feature. If you make an attack with advantage against a creature and both your attack rolls would hit the target, your attack is automatically considered a critical hit.
Just one big punch.
Yep.
You hit the right spot, roll high on both your die, just get a... it might be another win more
Sure.
kind of feature, because if you're rolling 2 dice already, if you're a rogue, there's a high chance you're already going to crit. So if you roll a 20, and then, I don't know, your second dice doesn't hit him, it kind of doesn't matter, because, like, you already have the critical.
Mm-hmm.
But on the chance that you roll, like, 2 19s, you're like, oh, damn, I wish one of them was a crit. Well, now it is.
Yeah, exactly. It confirms the one big punch.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's a capstone ability you'd think would be like, whoa, it puts you at such a high level, even at really high levels of play. It makes you super strong. This just makes you so good against people who are weaker than you.
Yeah.
Like, every commoner is getting critical by every punch you throw out. And against a dragon, you're like, I need to roll 2 17 pluses.
No,
And, like, how often is that going to happen? You'll take the 1.
Sure.
But... yeah, just being... I didn't crunch the exact numbers of, like, how much would this increase the chances based on, like, what you're in. Yeah. But yeah, it's just more crits, which is always good for a rogue.
I think at the same time, it's nice that it's kind of leaning into the fact that the rogue is one of the classes that does not get extra attack, and it is just constantly making it so that when you land a hit, it's a significant hit.
It's true. Yeah, I wrote in the flavor of the feature, it's kind of like, you either just are so good at punching people really hard, or you're really good at, like you said, like, oh, their temple. I'll hit them in the temple, and you just knock them out,
right.
No matter how, like, powerful they are.
Yeah.
Or again, you're fighting, like, some dude at a bar, and it's just like a knight. It's like, okay, he dies. You punch him on the spot so hard, he takes 20d6 bludgeoning damage. Like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Honestly, reading through this again, I understand why people are saying that it's very strong.
Yeah, reading through it again, I am also, like, reevaluating my initial rating, which is maybe an A. I think it doesn't do anything bad.
No.
It doesn't do anything. It's close. It's kind of close to the Suffering Paladin of, like, it's all combat focused. It doesn't have anything necessarily social or exploratory.
Yeah. It does one thing, and it does it very well. And yeah, its features are all just making it worth it to punch someone one time.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I think it's successful in doing so.
I was gonna say, I'm like, because if you do that, you do give up a lot. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, you're not gonna be able to use special weapons or anything like
Yeah,
that. So
exactly.
I had to make the trade-off feel worth it. And looking at it again, I'm like, wow, it might be really worth it. It's like, oh no, I need to not use daggers, but my punches become a D12 eventually. I kind of don't care.
Yeah.
Or D10 at max. Alongside just being able to, like, punch people outside of your turn and set up stun for your allies and yourself so you can sneak attack again.
Yep.
It's very self-enabling. All of the abilities lead into one another.
Yes, it lets you do what you need to do as this subclass.
Yeah, and then if your allies are able to
sort of capitalize on the stun and everything.
Yeah, or even vice versa, if they know how you work, they'll be like, I will grapple that guy. I'll just grab him. You punch him, that's our MO.
This is the run up on someone.
Yeah, it's the yes.
This is the JoJo meme.
Fight back. Yeah, it is. It's honestly, you're right. It is. A gang of this rogue as like NPCs would be so funny. Just like come here. They grab you and 3 street urchins come out and start punching you in the gut. I do love it.
Yeah. It's great. It's very simple, but it does what it does so well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any resources that you can run out of. It doesn't draw on anything that the rogue needs to do already.
It really is, like, it's just the pillars of play that are maybe
bringing it down, where
it's just like, yeah, this is all combat. It does a punch.
It throw a big punch.
It throw one big punch.
Yeah. Given that, yeah. And it's funny. You know, you can argue Sucker Punch is a social, plays the social side.
Yeah.
You're like, no, it's like, looks like negotiations have failed, and before they can even, like, draw their sword, it's like, I punch him. You're doing the thing where your DM's like, alright, I guess you get one attack on them before things kick off.
It's not even aggressive negotiations. It is just negotiations have failed.
It's like, well, time to start punching.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe also A. It's like it's another like it does what it does really well.
yeah, it might pull itself out of being a B just for being so good at what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the class fantasy of it is saving it a lot because
I think
it
so.
does exactly what you want it
Yeah.
to if you're making this character.
You're right. Yeah. I think the yeah, maybe taking the flavor into account. It's,
Yeah.
The idea of playing a whole campaign with this character, I think, would be very fun. There, like, I lean more towards the like you're from the underbelly in like dirty ring fights, and then you just learn to punch people really hard. I think is really funny.
Yeah, it's the muscle rogue. Weirdly,
It is, yeah.
very good for the brute of the roguish group.
But again, you're like running in, punching, and running away.
That's true. Yeah, you're not very
Like-
solid.
He's like, yeah, keep talking that trash. Why don't you come over here and say it to my face? And they're like 30 feet away. It's like, I would, but you keep running.
Yeah, that's fair. Not quite the muscle.
No.
But
Let's
yeah.
say A?
I think it does get an A for me.
Okay.
I think normally it would be a B, and once again it is pulled into an A.
I think the
Just
flavor
on
pulls
being-
it above.
Yes, on
I'd say
being
high-
what it is.
High B, low A.
Yeah,
We can put it, I think, at the bottom of A tier from what we've got so
yeah,
far.
yeah.
I think that's good.
I think that's good too.
Continuing with the punching theme, next up, we have the Way of the Splitting Second Monk.
Time is an illusion, a seemingly intangible concept perceived by those who experience time in its understandable linear form. Monks of the Way of the Splitting Second know this well, and use their key to manipulate time to their advantage. If time is perceived as a stream, then altering its current can allow one to achieve seemingly impossible feats.
This is a good one.
Yeah,
Fun theme. This was all you.
we had our pair of pugilists
Yes.
at one point.
Yeah, I remember you. I feel like you had this idea for a little bit though, or at least had it in mind of like a monk that could kind of manipulate time. wasn't it?
Honestly, it didn't come up until we were thinking of subclasses for that month. But for that month, yeah, that was the one that I was kind of obsessed with, was having a way of doing a time monk. Mostly inspired by Obeka from Magic the Gathering.
Very much with the drawing as well. Oh, the art as well.
Yes, punch time.
Yeah. At third level, you gain the Flow State feature, which allows you to use your key points to bolster your abilities in a number of ways. Firstly, whenever you use a key feature such as Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, or Step of the Wind, you can choose to use a second different key feature at the same time. You can also spend a key point instead of your reaction to use your Deflect Missiles feature, and if you do not need to spend an additional key point to make an attack with the ammunition. Finally, at 11th level, you can spend 3 key points as a part of this feature to take an additional action on your turn, but you can only do so once per turn.
I snuck an 11th level ability into the 3rd level ability.
Yeah, I think this sets the tone of what kind of subclass it is.
Yes, I did come into this wanting to fix some of the issues with Monk in 2014, where you end up using a lot of your key points on your abilities. So I wanted to make it more worth it by giving you 2 of your key features if you were actually spending key points on them.
Which now is also becoming
Which-
just like a thing for the monk.
Yes, now that is how some of the key features are working in the 2024 version. So it might not be as necessary to keep this if we ever update it.
I think that's a indication that you were on the right direction with this one, though. Like, clearly Wizards also understood that one of the biggest reasons monks were undervalued as a class is just they're so resource-starved early on.
Yes.
Even more so. It's like the impact of each individual key point is less than something like a Bardic Inspiration or like a Second Wind Charge and stuff like that. So, I think it just means like you had the right idea in mind. And yeah, this just, I think growing at 11th level makes sense. These all feel like somewhat small but powerful effects.
Yes.
Like, the later effects are very like, I'm warping time in a huge way. These feel very like, I manipulate a little bit of time and I can use Deflect Missiles. I manipulate a little bit of time, I can use a second feature. Like, cool. Small things that add up.
Yeah, it makes you feel kind of like a speedster. You can do more on your turn than a normal monk.
Yeah.
Also at 3rd level, you gain the Speedy Recovery feature, which allows for you and your allies to gain the benefits of a short rest in just 10 minutes. A creature can only benefit from this feature once per long rest.
Catnap.
Yeah, it's catnap.
Yeah.
Catnap on a monk.
Catnap on a monk.
Once again, one of the ways that I was sort of through the sort of time flavor fixing one of the issues with monk, which is that people don't really want to take the short rest as often if they're also not people who benefit from short rests. So a way that you can recover your key points and also get your party ready for another attack or another fight, you can get a short rest in 10 minutes. That's much easier to convince people to take 10 minutes out instead of a full hour.
Yeah, it's nice that you also get a support feature as a monk as well.
Yeah, that was me making an effort to make it less combat focused.
Yeah, Flow State is an entirely combat focused feature. This being a little bit of just, take a moment, everyone can recover your things. It's good to do just like early on so you still have your resources, or you could do it later just so everyone, you have a warlock in your party, they burn through their spell slots, get it right back. Good for you.
Yes, this is the friend to warlocks.
Yes,
subclass.
everywhere. Yeah, and I really like the advanced healing, like speeding up time, advanced healing, kind of like magic and tech in fantasy.
And this,
so it's just like you don't
way kind of does it. It's
it's not undoing damage. It's just like heal that arm. That like what if like a few weeks pass for that arm? That cut is gone now.
Yeah,
I think of it that flavor more.
Spending the hit dice makes it like your natural healing is sped up.
Yeah,
exactly. A lot of speedsters have kind of like advanced healing
metabolism and stuff.
It's definitely there for the flavor.
Yeah. At 6th level, you gain the Hands of Time feature. Now you can use your key points to affect other hostile creatures as well. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can spend your key points to affect it in one of the following ways. Rewind allows you to teleport a creature to the space it occupied at the beginning of its last turn.
Slow obviously treats the creature as though it were under the effects of the slow spell for 1 minute.
And Freeze stuns the creature until the end of your next turn. And during that time, if it takes an instance of bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, thunder, or force damage, it takes extra damage in the form of force damage when it becomes unstunned.
Just that rapid punches and then like taking a second to
to all register.
Yeah.
It's Foxy from One Piece when Luffy lets it all go, hits him with the barrage of punches, and then it all catches up to him all at once. Boom, and he goes flying off the ship.
Right. I finally understood that reference.
At long last. Yeah, it's cool ways. It's a lot of battlefield control, whether it's through just, stunning or slowing your enemies is obviously really good, but also rewinding them is a good amount of utility.
Yeah.
You can just send a guy who jumped in, or maybe they teleported in, and you just send them back to where they were.
Yep. I do have a sort of player note in this that you should be the one keeping track of the of where you teleport the enemy back to, just so that you don't put that on your DM, to remember where each of the enemies you're facing were the last turn.
Yeah.
Just kind of choose your targets for it and keep track of it.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Because like your plan might change.
Yes.
What if the guy you marked originally isn't who you want to use the feature on now? Are you gonna mark every enemy's position every turn? There's a little bit of a quality of life difficulty with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was how I wanted it to work. There were ways to kind of do the same thing, but it wasn't exactly... It wasn't correct, in my opinion. I think that if you plan a little bit, you'll be able to use it as is.
Yeah. It's good. I actually just remembered in Dota, there's a hero called Disruptor who has a recall ability, and it sends them back to where they were 4 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And that was always really good, because if an enemy teleported in and you send them back, they just go all the way back to base.
Oh, yeah, it's
so
so
you just wasted
good.
so much time, and like they have to walk all the way back. Most of the time, you're not going to be dealing with like teleporting enemies.
No, but when you do,
if someone
undoing a Misty Step,
Misty Step, Thunder Step. I do like the flavor of someone actually full on teleporting from like across the world, and you just send them back with like 1 key point. It's very funny.
You know, I hadn't thought about the implications of that.
I didn't either.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, and slow and freeze are obviously still good. They're definitely the more like damage focused
Yes.
ones.
Freeze is augmented stunning strike
Yeah,
in a way.
just more.
Just
3
more.
key points if you think you can really wail on them in that time.
Exactly.
At 11th level, you gain the ability to turn back time with temporal recall. You jot down your HP total, remaining key points, and your current position. At the start of your next turn, or as a reaction to taking damage, you can activate this feature to rewind yourself to the recorded position with recorded number of hit points and recorded number of key points.
So yeah, this is kind of an archetypal time character
Yeah,
power.
yeah.
It's-
Echo,
Yep.
Phoenix
Yep.
from Valorant,
Tracer. Yeah.
Tracer, Weaver from Dota again. They all have an ability of like, I just go back 6 seconds prior, right where I was.
Mhm.
I think that's when the subclass like fully comes online. Up till then, it was kind of like little bits of time manipulation. This is full on going back in the time stream to like fix any mistakes or get yourself out of a suboptimal position.
Yep. Just get more key points.
Get your key points back.
Get
Yeah.
Key points back.
Yeah, spend it, run in, flurry of blows your way to victory,
Yeah.
and then just boom back out.
You have one big turn where you just spend, and then you get it all back.
Yeah, you have your insurance because I think the only way this doesn't work is if you take so much damage you can't use your reaction.
Yes.
That's the only way this wouldn't trigger.
Yeah,
but
because you do have to take the damage.
You do have to take the damage and
There
then
has to
use
be
the
an
reaction.
Yeah, it has to be an amount of damage that doesn't take you down.
Yeah. But if you can get maximum value out of this, I think it's really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the most tactical part of it because maximizing the amount you get out of this ability is like the trick to it.
I think there's lots of creative usage you could get out of this as well. I'm thinking about now outside of combat. You could trick people to thinking, hey, they went that way. And then you run past the guards in full view, like, hey, I'm running to the north. And then you round a corner, zip back to where you were as long as you did it in 6 seconds. And then they're like, they went around the corner, we'll chase after them. Now I'm thinking about it, a really creative player could get a lot of value out of this ability, I think.
That is true. I hadn't thought about using it that way.
Honestly, the main thoughts I have for this are kind of out of combat ones in a weird way. In combat, it's very clear, like, spend it, run in, hit them as many times as you can, spend all your key points, do everything, and then just zip back before the end of your next turn. Out of combat, there's some weird things you could do.
Yep.
You could put yourself into like a position that would kill you, and then just go like, nope. Like you dive off a cliff to like see something you need to find, and you just zip back. I don't know.
Depends on how far you get in 6 seconds. Technically, rules is written, you fall the entire amount in one round. So
depending on how deep the hole is, yeah, you'd hit the bottom. I don't remember exactly how much it is. It's like 6 seconds. I'm actually not sure. But yeah, you would just like plummet all the way, and the moment you achieve whatever goal you need.
And you're a monk, so you take less of that falling damage. So you're
That's
more likely
true.
to survive it.
Even if you don't use
And
it
then
for
you
whatever
just
reason.
go back. Yeah.
Well,
Weird, like, spelunking
in a way,
way
yeah.
of using this.
Yeah, it's only 6 seconds because it's a round, so it's a bit limited, but I think there's a lot of potential with it.
Yep. Oh god, this is the jump off a cliff while holding your BBG kind of
Yeah, wait, you're right, yes.
When you both take damage, you just teleport back
Yeah, you're
up.
like, no, gone. Yeah.
Finally, at 17th level, you gain Clock Stopper. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can spend a number of key points up to your Wisdom modifier to deal additional force damage, and the creature must make a Charisma saving throw. On a failure, the creature is banished outside of time for 1 minute, after which it must make a second saving throw or remain banished for up to 7 days.
Yeah, you punch him in the next week.
Yep.
Perfect.
That was the joke.
No notes.
When I thought of the phrase being punched into next week, I had to make this work somehow.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the capstone. It has
Yeah.
to be.
It's interesting because it's, in some ways, it's stronger than Banishment, and some ways weaker.
Yes.
Because you could, theoretically, Banishment, you can obviously send someone away, quote, forever. This, they will come back in 7 days.
Yes.
This is not a permanent solution. But the wording is kind of tricky in the, like, you're banished outside of time.
Right.
It's the time travel thing, right? It's like, they don't get 7 days to plan what they're doing.
No, they're back as they were 7 days.
As they were in an instant, they're 7 days. So they come back with a current hit points, current stats, current everything, and you can just be ready. Be like, in 2 minutes, he's gonna appear at that point. Load every ballista catapult we have at that spot. Shoot him.
Yep. Honestly, just like putting glyphs of warding everywhere and then just camping out. Just having a hero's feast on the 7th day, just being absolutely ready for this guy as soon as he comes back.
It's so funny to imagine them having a like hero's feast. Just normally you'd be like, it's the last fight, guys. We gotta do it tomorrow. This is just like, and tomorrow he dies.
Yeah.
We have 50 mines around that spot. We're all ready. We're well rested.
Just fireworks.
Yeah.
Camp out, watch the fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, you base, like, the whole subclass around, like, this has gotta fucking happen.
Yeah. I mean, I knew this was how it was going to end.
Yeah.
I just, the rest of it was trying to make the best monk that I could, really. And, yeah.
This one's strong.
This one is strong.
This one, again, the fact that Wizards kind of implemented a similar change to the monk.
Yes.
Before, to the new upcoming monk, points that it was in a good direction. But the new monk is also super good.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a good indicator this subclass is probably the strongest.
Yeah.
I keep going back and forth between whether it's A or S.
I think it's S.
It might be S.
Even me just being objective, I did design this one. I think it's very strong.
It kind of has the similar thing you had with the Fable, where it can do so many things.
Yes.
It can't be bad.
It's not
but it's at least
overwhelming.
It's at least have some new ways to use your key points.
Right.
Then at 6th level, you gain more ways to use key points. Fine, but it's all just extra monk things.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, it's do more monk things
so
more often.
And it's powerful.
Yeah.
Its ability to give everyone essentially catnap is, I don't think you'd ever not be happy with that.
No.
Like, everyone gets something back on a short rest.
Yeah. 10 minutes is very easy to negotiate with your party.
Yeah, and then Temporal Recall is just a good ability, and again, I think it lends itself to lots of creative play.
Yep.
So it might even be stronger than I currently realize. And Clockstopper is, it's a game winner.
Yes.
Right? It's got the same thing everyone says about, like, the Banishment, where if you eat through your BBG's legendary resistances, and then you hit a Clockstopper and they fail, you're like, cool, we win.
We win. Yeah.
It's like, and he went back in 7 days. But again, just be well rested, gather all your allies, and set all your traps, and they'll just die on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a finisher move. 100%.
Yeah, and I think this one suffers less from the issue that some of the other subclasses have with resource management, because you gave it specifically in flow state a way to get extra benefits out of your key points.
It's all just getting the most out of the most of your resources and the most out of your resources.
Yeah, so you're already doing, like you said, you're doing monk things better.
Yeah.
Already. And then you just get additional ways to use it, and the additional ways you can use them are very powerful. Rewind has, like, no ceiling in terms of how powerful something can be, technically.
No.
Again, you could, if someone teleports from overseas, you just send them back.
If you can immediately punch them,
Yeah, you
in
see
one
them, they're
round,
gone.
Done.
Yeah, but even just, like, Thunder Step in, send them right back.
Yep.
Slow and freeze are both really good. There's nothing to look down on. It might be S. I feel like it has no downsides.
Yeah. I think
in a way.
I think the thing that you can say are the downsides are that rewind and temporal recall are a little complex.
Temporal Recall is not too bad in my mind. Rewind is a harder one.
Rewind is a harder one.
Because in my mind, you are thinking about that one bandit. I'm sending them back. What if your plans change? What if they die and now you want to change someone else? And you're
Where
like,
was that guy
I think
before?
he was there, and now you want to get finicky. So you're right. That might be the only thing. It's kind of a finicky subclass, and I think it only fits in certain, like, worlds or campaigns. You could argue the idea of, like, I'm warping time and blah blah, but it's a little less generally applicable than some subclasses.
That's fair.
That's not to say that makes it weaker. It's more of the fantasy thing.
Yes.
Of like, oh, you don't have dragons in your world, well, no one's playing a Drake Warden.
Sure.
Kind of situation. Whereas, like, I don't think any world is like, you can't play a Battle Master, a guy who's good at fighting.
Yeah,
so
it's a little bit more narrow.
It's more of a world where I imagine magic and fantasy is much more common.
Yeah. I mean, Dunamancy, you playing this in Tal'Dorei? This is how you do a Dunamancy monk.
I love the idea of Essek just going, I've mastered time my whole life. This is all I'm about. And some guy just smacks him and sends him a week in the future. He's like, I don't understand what just happened. What's going on? It's like, it is cool as a subclass outside of a wizard that can mess with time.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
I think I like that as a way to build monks too. Is a fun sort of thing of like access to magic that's not normal magic.
Yeah. I think S is fair.
It doesn't.
The only weaknesses it has are it's maybe a little complex and its reliance on key points, which is already mitigated, and that's not a thing unique to it. That's a
true.
monk issue,
Which is solved in the new rules. Which I think if this is updated for the new rules, it will have to be actually tuned down.
Yeah, we'll probably have to scale it back a little. Honestly,
yeah, most of the problems it is solving have kind of been solved.
Yeah, we have to give it new features now.
Oh no, I get to make more time abilities.
Alright, next up, we have the Cleric of the Revelry Domain. The enamoring power of food and drink ought not be underestimated for those who take on the mantle of adventurers. Followers of the Revelry Domain harness this magical power, channeling it to both keep their allies' spirits afloat and overwhelm their foes' faculties. Always the life of the party, these clerics can hold their own in a fight just as well as in a drinking contest, and are sure to be the last person standing either way. Rest is for the dead. Now drink and be merry, for there is only now to be had. This one's fun.
Yeah,
I like just the party cleric. I know I've seen other versions of it done before, but we wanted to take our own crack at it.
Yeah.
And it was our favorite. We were coming up with different ideas for what we could do for cleric, and this one just seemed really fun.
Yeah, clerics already take on the role of rallying the party, make it an actual party.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun flavor for the same sort of role.
Yeah, and it felt very natural to lead it in with its debuff effects and its spells that charm people. Felt very in line with someone who's very charismatic at a party and is the center of attention.
Yeah, go with the consequences of partying hard as well as the benefits.
Yeah.
At first level, you gain domain spells, which are a mix of ways to rally your party while debuffing your enemies, mostly with charm-centered effects.
Yeah, it sets the tone really well, I think.
Yeah.
Getting to purify food and drink or create food and water.
Yes, those are the provider sort of bit.
But
they
even
brought
spells,
snacks.
It's fun also with spells like Blur. It's just the idea of like, base Blur is you create a little like mirage around yourself, but the flavor can be like, your enemies can't stand straight and they're trying to hit you and they have beer goggles on.
Exactly.
And the other charm effects go along with what we're saying. You're like the center of the attention, so everyone's wowed by your charisma.
Yep.
But it's just manifests in the way of things like Charm Monster and a Thrall.
Yeah, it's the RPG effect of drinking a beer or any alcohol gives you a charisma bonus.
Somehow, yeah. Also at first level, you gain the Rallying Touch feature. Whenever you heal a creature, it gains advantage on the next attack roll or saving throw it makes within 1 minute.
Always good.
Always good. Just solid. It's quite powerful once you gain access to area effect healing spells.
Yes.
Healing multiple creatures at a time. But since that's reliant on how high of a level you are and what spells you are, I think it's still good. Early level, it's basically just you cast Healing Word on one person and the person of import.
Yep, I was going to say Healing Word is definitely the early game
friend
version. Yeah.
And finally, at first level, you gain some bonus proficiencies. You can either choose brewer supplies, cook's utensils, or a single musical instrument of your choice, and you gain proficiency in one of the following skills of medicine, performance, or persuasion.
Yep. The standard cleric getting extra stuff.
Standard cleric getting extra stuff, all party stuff. You can make alcohol, you can cook food, or you can play music. You play Wonderwall.
Yeah.
And medicine.
Just like any good party.
Yeah. And medicine, performance, persuasion just felt appropriate. It's all things that we thought are fit with the flavor of the Revelry domain.
Yes, for sure. At second level, you unlock your Channel Divinity option, Raucousness, which allows you to summon a sphere of boisterous elation that moves with you. Whenever a creature ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can either grant it temporary hit points or end a single charm or frighten effect on it. The creature must be able to hear you to benefit from this. But yeah,
Your life of the party.
your life of the party.
Everywhere you go, it's fun to be had. This is basically the Twilight Domain Cleric's Channel Divinity as well.
It is.
But it just did everything we wanted it to do. I remember we were coming up with this, and then we were looking at other clerics for reference, and I realized what we came up with was basically the same.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to compromise on the design of this just because it was similar to something. I mean, we did the same thing with the Cheapshot, where it essentially has the same feature as the assassin, but it felt really appropriate for it.
Yeah.
And I felt like having the flavor of this is like you're like clapping and cheering and everyone like, come on guys, like the party's still going, and you can give temporary hit points to keep your allies going, or if they're charmed or frightened, they're like, no, it's like no harsh vibes in my party essentially.
Yeah. It works with the flavor of this as much as it does with the Twilight Domain.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that differentiates them is Twilight Domain, they need to either I think they need to be able to see you because you emit like a light. And this we changed it to they need to be able to hear you because it's again like you're rallying everyone to like keep going. And I think that's kind of fun because the counterplay is different.
It's true.
If you get hit with silence, technically this feature stops.
Yeah.
Unless you somehow manage to avoid it. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. It's not gonna happen all the time, but
whereas blindness doesn't undo it.
No, yeah. So the more time passed, the less bothered I was by the fact that it is really similar to the Twilight Domain channel, and that's a good one. Yeah, and this just does more of what we wanted it to do.
Absolutely.
At 6th level, you gain the Intoxicate feature. When you hit a creature and it fails a Constitution save, it becomes intoxicated for 1 minute, during which time it is poisoned and falls prone if it moves more than half its speed. If a creature's saving throw is successful, or if the effect is ended for it, it is immune to this feature for the next 24 hours. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier per long rest. So now we're getting into the offensive end of this subclass.
Yes.
We were like, it has to have something of just intoxicating your opponents.
Yeah.
So they're stumbling around, they try to chase, and they just fall on the ground.
Yeah, you need the
downside of
over-partying.
Yeah, and it's not such a powerful effect, but we felt like we had to kind of limit its usage.
Yeah.
Just because you could theoretically keep hitting someone.
Yes.
And they fall down, you now have advantage on them, and you just do it again, and they just keep going.
Prone is strong.
Poison is strong, too.
Poison is also strong.
Yeah.
Advantage on all attacks against it, and it has disadvantage on all its saves.
Yeah, it's just another ability that came from the flavor. We realized we needed something, the drunkenness, the stumbling, and I'll kind of give it. You're drunk, you're poisoned. You're drunk, you can't move very far. Not too many things that are immune to this, I suppose. It's not everything, almost everything in the manual doesn't like one of these two conditions, except for like oozes.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh no, oozes.
Oh no. Hey, at least now we're getting some strong oozes.
The oozes have absorbed the alcohol.
Beer ooze.
All right, write that one down.
I know, that's somewhere. Cut that out, cut that out.
At 8th level, you become the Master of Ceremonies. While a creature within 60 feet of you is charmed by you, you can issue it a command as a bonus action, similar to the command spell. Drink, 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 drink.
Yeah, literally that. Yeah, that's just it. And considering, I like this actually a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty inventive use of the charmed condition.
Yes.
You already need to have something else that you're charming them by, but we gave you that in the expanded spell list.
Absolutely.
And just getting command is not so powerful of a spell that handing out, quote, free commands is insane.
Yeah.
But it does give you a lot of control across the battlefield, a lot of utility.
Yes, absolutely.
As long as you manage to charm them once, bonus action, have them run away, maybe leave your wizard alone, have them drop their weapon. It's all little things, but I think considering there is a prerequisite of them being charmed by something else you do,
yeah,
it's it doesn't feel overpowered to give you free uses of command.
Yeah, and usually like mass charm abilities are going to be more of a subtle effect. So this adding just an additional subtle effect to it.
Yeah,
but it's nice. Yeah, I think it does exactly what we wanted it to.
Yeah, and it's still got the same restrictions as the command spell, where they're not going to listen to something like jump into that lava.
Yeah.
Or it has to understand your language, so it can't be used on beasts and certain like other types of monsters. So it's got enough restrictions that I wouldn't blink at someone using this.
Yeah, a single word. It's going to be a very simple command.
Yep.
Although your players will absolutely
there's some creative use. Yeah, there's always gonna be something.
But yeah, I like this ability a lot.
Yeah, it feels like it builds well on the basis that we've already established.
Yeah.
At 70th level, you are a true party host. And a true party host never forgets to supply their guests with ample food and drink. Once a week, you can cast a Hero's Feast spell without expending a spell slot and without material components. It's just good.
Yep. You get Hero's Feast.
For free.
For free.
It's not like... looking at other capstones for clerics and such, there are varying levels of powerful.
Yeah.
And this is one where you don't get to do something massive in the middle of combat. You don't change the full battle with an enormous spell or something. But Hero's Feast is kind of like a great story point spell.
Yeah.
It's again alright guys, it's the last battle. We're about to go fight the BBG. Let's have a feast. I know it's only 6th level because it's not a combat spell, quote unquote.
Sure.
Like, Wizards values things that have immediate impact much higher.
Yeah.
But the things Hero's Feast gives you are so good.
Yeah.
And you're like, free once per week? Excellent.
Yeah.
Just stock it up.
Also, it's exactly what you want from this subclass. Like,
yeah, flavor-wise,
this is the flavor of it. You want to supply your friends with food and drink.
You can.
Rally them for battle. You got it. Yeah. It's I think it's a nice way to cap it off.
Yeah, flavor and function. As we're designing this, I think we came up with this we're like, well, this has got to be it.
Yeah.
And we spent time brainstorming, like, I don't know, is there something more interesting? Is there something else we could do? And nothing really felt as right as this.
Yeah. And that just means that you don't have to prepare a Hero's Feast whenever you need it. Like, chances are you're only going to need one every week.
Yeah, yeah.
if you need
one
more
per,
Hero's
maybe
Feast.
one per campaign, depending on what level you're playing at. And like, you'll already have Hero's Feast, like, prepared by other ways.
I think by 14th level you should have it.
Yeah, but it's for free.
Yes,
you don't spend
exactly.
1,000 gold on it. You just get it for free.
It doesn't take a slot.
If you told me I could have $1,000 meal once per week, I take it. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting looking at all the subclasses one after another and seeing how our sensibilities and knowledge in terms of subclass building has grown.
Yeah. We've definitely trended towards improvement, for sure.
I would think so. Yeah, I think Revelry is very, very solid. I'm inclined towards A for this.
I am as well. I think it does exactly what you want it to.
I don't know if it's strong enough to crack S
No.
quite yet. I think what it does is it does lots of things.
Yeah.
It can like poison your enemies. It can command, it gives you some utility with Master of Ceremonies. It gives you some buffing and it does lots of things very well. I don't think it does any one thing so well that it would bump it into S tier for me.
Yeah. Like it's very good at exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah. I think if this is the flavor kind of character you want to play, like someone who's a party goer or anything, I think this would fit you really well as well.
Yeah. You want to roleplay a bacchanal to sort of
yeah.
Put this on a satyr. You will have
always
Dionysus cosplay. You will be the god of partying.
Yep. And that's all of our subclasses so far. We're looking forward to bringing you the final 6 next month with our takes on the Barbarian, Druid, Fighter, Ranger, Sorcerer, and Wizard.
We hope you enjoyed hearing our thoughts on our subclasses, and we're interested to hear if you've ever played or are interested in playing one of them in the future.
You can find all of the subclasses you saw today on our Patreon and Instagram, alongside years of other homebrew creations.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next time.